Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Game Changer. I'm Mariam Zia. In today's program, we will be exploring the dynamic and evolving relationship between Pakistan and Iraq. Foreign Minister Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is on a 3-day visit to Iraq, and Foreign Minister is holding meetings with key Iraqi leadership. So far, we know that 2 MOUs have been signed, and of course, a Foreign Minister has expressed Pakistan's resolve to strengthen the bilateral relationship between Pakistan and Iraq. In today's program, we will be exploring different dimensions of this evolving relationship between Pakistan and Iraq. To discuss this and more, I'm joined in the studios by Mr. Hamza Rifat, who is expert in international affairs, and with him we are joined in the studios by Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaswal, who is expert in international affairs. We are joined online by Dr. Hasnain Javed, who is economist and expert in international affairs. A very warm welcome to you all in the program. So, Mr. Hamza, let me start with you. When we look at Pakistan's relationship with Iraq, of course, we know that these relations go beyond the diplomatic ties. So, how do you see that relationship between Pakistan and Iraq has evolved over time, keeping in mind the historical context of the relationship?
Well, I think Iraq and Pakistan are 2 strategic partners. I mean, Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari actually categorized the relationship as a brotherly relationship. And one of the reasons why is because if you take a look at history in general, since the Mesopotamia era and the Indus Valley civilization, there have been civilizational contacts between the 2 communities for that matter. And beyond culture, I think since the 2003 invasion, Pakistan has been a very staunch supporter of Iraq, and it's also been a very strong supporter of upholding the sovereignty of Iraq for that matter. So I mean, both countries have played an extremely important role as far as non-alignment is concerned, or as far as non-aggression is concerned, as far as ensuring that diplomatic ties and diplomatic relations need to move forward in an apolitical manner instead of going ahead with blocks.
And there is no major strategic conflict when we talk about Pakistan's relations with Iraq.
No, absolutely
right?
not. In fact, there's a lot of strategic convergence. I mean, there's no real strategic conflict. And I was mentioning straight after the 2003 invasion, Pakistan has been a staunch supporter of Iraq's sovereignty. And Pakistan was one of the few countries who actually castigated the United States and the George Bush administration, along with Tony Blair in the UK, for actually authorizing military action against Iraq during the Saddam Hussein regime. And because, numerous reports found out that there were no weapons of mass destruction, so there was no rationale for using force. And it also, contradicted numerous UN Security Council resolutions which dealt with the issue. So Pakistan and Iraq share an extremely strong cultural bond. I've spoken about the civilizational context, and obviously in the post-2003 era, both countries vouched for non-aggression as well. One important point is that Pakistan and Iraq, obviously with the the Shia Muslim population in Iraq and the Shia Muslim population in Pakistan, they do share a very close bond as far as religious significance is concerned.
And of course, we know that every year more than 200,000 Pakistanis visit Iraq for the religious rites. But Dr. Jaswal, talking about these political and diplomatic ties, how do you see that, like Mr. Hamza already mentioned about Pakistan's role post US invasion of Iraq, how do you see these relations evolved over time after that, and what is the significance of this important strategic partnership?
I think that Hamza very rightly pointed out, and he traced from the civilizational contact that even in the age when there was no means of the communication like today, there was a connection. And even if you see, during the slave dynasty in Delhi, they used to express their allegiance to the Caliph in Baghdad. And then we have seen that there is a long history. Baghdad Iraq was a seat of learning for us, and that is the reason that the people of Pakistan had a very special, you can say, inclination towards the Iraq. But now coming towards the post 2003, when Americans started Operation Iraqi Freedom, and later on they failed to establish that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Pakistan didn't support earlier. Even Americans were very much looking that in 2004 that Pakistani troops would be available under the United Nations Special Commission for maintaining the, you can say, peace and stability in Iraq. Even Pakistani high diplomat was made the head of the United Nations mission in Iraq, Ashraf, a very, very good guy, Ashraf Jahangir Qazi. but Pakistan did not, you can say, send its troops to the Iraq because it was realized by the Musharraf government that if we send the troops to the Iraq, maybe it would be interpreted by the Iraqi people as a part of the American invading forces, or even under the United Nations umbrella. Still, we were skeptical, so that's why we were very much. So we have been. Why I'm narrating this story, I'm narrating this point because I think that people of Pakistan or the government of Pakistan, they are always sensitive about the Iraq, and they realizes to establish, or they are convinced to establish people-to-people contact.
Of course.
And second point, which both of you have mentioned, that Iraq is very important not only for a religio-cultural sort of a thing. Culturally, of course, rich history, Muslim history, and the other history, and culturally and religiously, of course, we have a Kufa there, we have a Najaf there, and even in Bilawal Bhutto Sahab, when he was as a foreign minister of Pakistan, yesterday he inaugurated this consulate in Najaf.
Of course.
And he also asked the Iraqi government that please increase the facilities of some government centers that is going to establish in Kufa, so that the pilgrimage who go there, worshippers, they face not difficulties. So I think that if you try to examine these things with even today, and then there is one of the most important, besides economic trade,
Right,
we will
of
discuss.
course.
But one thing which I would like to add is that Pakistan and Iraq, they have a common challenges.
Of course.
When you say political, what is the number one common challenge is instability in the Gulf region. Now Iraq is talking about, and today I read about the Iranian commander of the Navy said that he is interested to make Iraq, Qatar, Iran, and some kind of a consortium for the security of the Persian Gulf or Arabian Gulf.
Right.
And if the Iraq is included in it, it will give us a relief that this sectarian conflict in the Persian Gulf. Pakistan is very much disturbed about these kind of the conflicts, but after the rapprochement between the Iran and Saudi Arabia, and Iran has a good influence in Iraq, and Russia, Americans,
right, of course.
the Saudis.
A lot of
so,
things.
Yeah, so we are interested that there could be no proxy wars there, and now Iraqis are determined, and definitely stability in Iraq is in our interest. As a brotherly Muslim country, and then Iraq is rich in the oil.
Of course, and we will be talking about those energy opportunities as well later in the program. But Dr. Hassan, I want to elaborate further upon the political and diplomatic ties between Pakistan and Iraq. How do you view the key areas of cooperation between Pakistan and Iraq, specifically when we talk about political and diplomatic relations between the two countries? And like Dr. Jaspal earlier mentioned about the political situations and challenges of both countries, how do you analyze these situations?
See, following Pakistan independence from India in 1947, Iraq has been the first Arab country to recognize the Pakistan and support it in the Bengal crisis. So, bilateral relationship between Iraq and Pakistan is a result of their presence in different global blocs and a different political system in Iraq at times were cold and sometimes dark. As results, the relationship have seen many ups and downs over more than 7 decades. So, but this is the turning point where we come the Pakistan-Iraq relationships, and an important turning point is Pakistan-Iran. Iraq relationship was in 1955 Cento Pact or the Baghdad Pact to counter the communist spread in the region, which is very much important. And nobody understands that there was the communist region over there. But with the formation of the pro-Soviet Republic in Iraq in 1958, the Baghdad withdrew from the military alliance with the fall of the former Iraqi president Saddam Hussein regime in 2003. So Pakistan provided relative support from Iraq new regime. So over the past 2 decades, various officials have traveled to two countries, but relationship has been smooth in last 2 years. However, there have been sign of the beginning of the new world order. So now coming to the bilateral in another dimension, the opening of the more bilateral missions, the signing of the memorandum of understanding between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and two countries on the cooperation in diplomacy, training and increased cooperation, which is very much important for both of the
Of course.
both of the time. We are coming from the hardship, but now the foreign minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is visiting Iraq. So during this visit, the foreign minister will meet the Iraqi leadership and
Right.
hold the detailed meeting in counterpart.
Of
Which is
course.
the
Of
most
course.
important thing is that the understanding to this effect come during the meeting of the foreign minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari and the minister of the state for the foreign affairs Hina Rabani Kar with the foreign minister of Iraq, Dr. Fuad Hussain, on the sidelines of the 13th annual meeting of the Sir Bani Yas Forum in Abu Dhabi last year. So the
Of
minister
course.
exchanged view on the bilateral relationship, the common interest, then in roots, and then as you discussed very well, that the bilateral trade convening the
Of
Joint
course.
Ministerial Commission, rebuilding Iraqi infrastructure, connectivity, Zairene pilgrimages, and enhance
Right.
people-to-people
So there are a
business and
number of
business
areas
contacts.
where there is potential for cooperation. Let's talk about the economic cooperation between Pakistan and Iraq. Can you provide us an overview of the economic relationship between Pakistan and Iraq, and what are the key areas where there is a lot of potential for cooperation and investment and trade between the two countries?
See, a lot many potential because see, one of the important thing is that Iraq is now thinking on a different aspects. Now they are going towards their own refineries. I just don't want to go into darkest and very pathetic history, which are how imperial powers destruct Iraq and how they have done and what they have done with Iraq. I don't want to go into that area because everybody knows that. But the important part is the Pakistan export to Iraq was just about 44.29, and which is fair or unfair. It is not the point, but now it is a new point. A new the new point is that what foreign minister says and how we are going to create the trade cooperation and connectivity. So minister also exchanged view on the way to expand commercial cooperation and improve connectivity between the two. So there is a huge potential of the development in the bilateral trade. Then the Pakistani investor goes there because we have this two areas which is very much important. So it is hoped that the current 100 million trade bilateral trade would be doubled, which would be record cooperation in the petroleum and tourism sector as well in the more air travel facility. In order to improve the economic trade cooperation, it is necessary to know each other market, and their exhibitions and seminar can be organized to boost the
Right.
interest of the business class. And very much important thing I just want to discuss this area. The Iraq is inaugurated oil refinery in the central city of Karbala on Saturday, a project the government hope will reduce its dependency on import, and it has the capacity to refine 140,000 barrels per day and help meet local demand for the petrol and kerosene and the heating oil, while the reducing import. And Iraq, the second largest producer within the organization of the petroleum export countries, and export an average of 3.3 million barrels of oil per day. So
Right.
crude oil represent around 90% of the government revenue. So what I am telling you is that this is very much important point. Now the bilateral trade between the two foreign
Right. So
ministers is done,
when we talk
and we
about the
can have the
bilateral trade,
good
what are
oil
major export
imports.
and import commodities when we talk about Pakistan's economic relations with Iraq?
See, there are the number of I just wanted to take a point. This is like a few of this. Traditional things like one is electric electronics and optic. Then is a tobacco. Then is a textile. Textile is a major thing which is Iraq is asking for. The machinery, nuclear reactors, product of the animal origin, raw hides and skins, miscellaneous chemical products, edible fruits and nuts, steel and ships, boats, Pakistan, and the mineral fuel and oil distillation products. So there are so many things because they are going to have their own refineries. So they need our much of the spare parts need in a very better way. So
Right. So there is
it
a
is a
lot of
very
potential to
important
enhance
potential.
this
Also, a lot
bilateral
many
trade.
potential, but it is just about the 44.29. So we can exceed up to so many of the millions. So it can turn up to the billion. I'm sure about that. This visit can create in the billion of the export.
Of course, of course. So this visit of is, of course, we know that very significant, and today was the second day of this visit of Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. So do you think that there are going to be more MOUs, and what are the areas that Pakistan should be focusing on, specifically when we talk about the trade and economic potential between the two countries? Are there some frameworks in place that are going to be finalized during this visit, or already have been initiated during last year's meeting?
Well, we do have a free trade agreement with Iraq. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt about it. And I think Dr. Aslam pointed out that you have 90% of oil revenue actually goes straight in towards the government's coffers. So that clearly shows that oil is one sector that needs to be invested in. Iraq is deprived of infrastructure at this point in time. I mean, decades of war, decades of instability, and you still have proxy warfare taking place. You have alpha elements and terrorist organizations such as the Islamic State over there as well. So Iraq, when we talk about development to try and make sure that they can offset extremism, needs the technical know-how. And this presents an opportunity for Pakistan to try and outsource professionals to go and work in those oil refineries, to try and create the requisite infrastructure, to try and make sure that oil revenues can have a trickle-down effect on the local population. I think that's very, very important. At the very same time, it's also important that oil exports to Pakistan also needs to increase. Obviously, we do realize that Pakistan continues to be an energy-starved country.
Of course.
We have been fixated with CPEC.
So are
We've also been
energy-related agreements in place between Pakistan and Iraq when we talk about, of course, energy cooperation and energy security between the two countries? So what is that?
Yeah, we've had two agreements. One was in 2006 and one was in 2005, the ones that I can recall. The problem is implementation. I think what happens is that when we have so much of internal political instability, that does not result in continuity of policy. So policymakers in the government are unable to try and make sure that they can implement those agreements in letter and spirit. What that does is that it's almost as if countries like Iraq, which are strategically important, they are oil hubs in the region, they tend to become less of a priority because of Pakistan's own internal dynamics. So, and this is a similarity between Pakistan and Iraq. Obviously, Iraq has also been witnessing political instability, and Iranian influence and Saudi influence has always had an impact. But given that the Saudi-Iran rapprochement has just taken place, now is an opportunity for Iraq to actually explore its economic potential.
Of course.
So for Pakistan, it's important to implement all the FTAs that were initially signed in letter and spirit. If it's not going to be implemented, and I think this visit does provide an opportunity to try and make sure that does take place.
This visit, Dr. Jaspal, does provide an opportunity, but still when we talk about Pakistan's relations with Iraq, security situation, how much do you think that plays a role in establishing the economic relations and for Pakistani companies and businesses to actually go and invest over there?
I think that Iraq is still in a turmoil. Political instability has been managed, and security is a big issue. And then within the Iraq, the tussle between this sectarian tussle is again there. Maybe the Saudis and Iranians rapprochement relieve it. And third is Iraq is not getting out of these kind of the things. But however, the foreign minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari's visit created some hope. The optimistic development was that it was signed that both states agreed visa-free for the officials, especially official passport. It is a good facilitation. Second is definitely this arrangement leads us towards further visa. You can say
and second MOU was on cultural cooperation between the two countries.
Second is in this context that they agreed to convene the ministerial level meetings. If they start convening the ministerial level meetings, then there are many areas to explore, like defense, cooperation. Pakistan has already been in a small arms assisting the Iraqi government and these kind of the things, and then our camera industry can be used to refurbish their you can say grounded air.
So what is the current level of security cooperation between the two countries, keeping in mind the threat of terrorism and shared challenge of terrorism that Pakistan and Iraq both have faced and
I
are
think
facing?
that both sides are, or their intelligence agencies are cooperating with each other, and it's why I'm saying, because there's no published document, but one can assume, because today Pakistan seems more vulnerable to Khorasan. Khorasan and its origin is from Daesh. Its origin is from Iraq and Syria. So naturally, if you have to hit the organization, especially a militant organization, you have to trace its roots and from where it getting the you can recruit all these kinds. So that is the one area. And even during the visit of the foreign minister, when he was in a negotiation or he has met to the Iraqi president, both had agreed that this is a menace, we cannot get rid of it. I mean, the terrorism alone, we have to cooperate with each other. So that is the area where in the security domain, you can say internal security, Pakistan and Iraq can work together, learn from their experiences, and able to, you can say, address the transnational terrorist organizations.
Of course, and that is very important, and we will be talking more about the rise of ISIS, Khorasan and other transnational terrorist organizations that keep on emerging and that pose common threat of terrorism to both Pakistan and Iraq. But we have we are talking about Pakistan's evolving relationship with Iraq. Dr. Hassan, when we talk about Pakistan's relationship with Iraq, of course, terrorism and border security management remains significant challenges. How do you see that Pakistan and Iraq can collaborate further when we talk about the security cooperation between the two countries, specifically when we talk about it in the context of the rise of terrorist organizations like ISIS and Khorasan?
See, the deep connection of ISIS or any other Al-Qaeda, whatever it is, whatever the terrorist onslaught on the Iraq, whatever the onslaught in Syria, whatever the onslaught on Pakistan and the Pakistan Taliban Pakistan, there is a connection within the Western powers. So it is not the idea of it is not our product. It has been endorsed, it has been pushed by somebody else. So it is not our game. So we must have to question this, those who write the book, The Clash of Civilization. So who is the mastermind?
But challenge still remains. Whoever created it, Dr. Hassan, challenge still remains that we have to fight this menace.
So we will fight together because it will convert. You can see that the Iraq is completely, and we are not, still we are saying that we are not part of any bloc politics, but Iraq is completely from the bloc politics. That's why they are working on their own infrastructure, their own oil refineries, their own every structure. They wanted to come out of this, regional, destruction and what you say, ISIS and other things. They wanted to come out just because they know where it comes from. So bloc politics, China will take care of it, Iran will take care of it, Saudi will take care of it, and who provide them to, fight together and fight with each other. Who is creating the destruction? Now they find the root cause analysis, and they are now coming to the point of which is the effect and who is the cause and who were the cause, and now they rectify that issue. So there is no Huntington and there is no clash of civilization, and the clash of civilization wanted to fight all those Arab countries and Islamic countries on the basis of the religion, but now we reject this issue. There is no Islamophobia here in this area, and there is no ISIS is the production of Pakistan or the production of the Iraq and other things. So it is been imported. So imported ISIS, we reject this issue. So now the bloc politics is very much important, and China is going to deal this issue in a very well manner, as they have tackled down the issue of Uyghur Muslims and the other things they have tackled down where it comes from. So we need to understand where it comes from. So definitely,
right. The origin of this is very important as per Dr. Hasnan, but given Pakistan's own experiences in combating terrorism, how do you see that Pakistan can share lessons with Iraq to fight against these terrorist organizations, and how both countries can collaborate further efforts to especially to address this challenge?
Well, first of all, Mariam, I don't agree with this fact that ISIS is a Western creation. I think ISIS is.
There are a lot of conspiracy theories that we keep on hearing, but let's talk about the solution.
Yeah, right? The solution is, all I'm trying to say is that there's this theory that ISIS consists of retired Jordanian soldiers as well who turned rogue against their own governments. So, and many ISIS figureheads have also beheaded Western captives as well. So they do have an anti-West agenda. There have been many ISIS attacks in Europe and the United States as well. So, I mean, that's just one point. As far as Pakistan is concerned, I think Pakistan has had its own experience with terrorism. We continue to tackle alpha elements such as the TTP, and we've won operations. When you talk about, you know, for example, Operation Zarb-e-Azab, for example, that was a very successful operation. We tried to weed out many of these terrorist organizations that actually threaten the social fabric and the sovereignty and the security of the Pakistani state. And then they also violated the writ of the state by attacking, you know, the Army Public School attack is a very grand example of what they are capable of doing. But we managed to send that message. Pakistan's military is extremely sophisticated, or our intelligence is very strong. These are the areas that we can actually impart to the Iraqi forces.
So how can Pakistan support Iraq in capacity building when we talk about the security cooperation?
I would actually like to see a lot more joint military exercises taking place within Iraq or in close proximity to Iraq to try and send a message to these terrorist organizations that they will not be able to, you know, emerge victorious in their goal of trying to establish a so-called caliphate within the Middle East. I think that is one area. The other area that I would suggest is that you need to enhance intelligence cooperation, try and share intelligence. The Iraqis, given their experience with terrorism as far as the ISIS case, as far as ISIS and the Arabian Peninsula is concerned, they can also share their experiences. So when you talk about counterterrorism, it's all about the operations that take place. And the operations and the modus operandi that is operationalized by both countries, if they're shared together, that means that you're sharing best practices. And that brings out the best in countries as far as counterterrorism is concerned. China has taken the lead as far as that is concerned. They've inked counterterrorism agreements with many African countries. They're trying to tackle, you know, alpha elements such as Boko Haram in Nigeria. That is something that Pakistan and Iraq are well placed in doing, because both countries have this experience of terrorism. We are a country which has, you know, suffered immensely in terms of human capital, in terms of loss of life, in terms of loss of critical infrastructure over the war that's going on as far as terrorism is concerned, and we're still not done yet.
Of course.
So Iraq has a similar problem, and given that proxy warfare would actually subside over the Saudi-Iran rapprochement, they can now focus on, you know, dealing with the Islamic State.
Of course. And when we talk about these challenges, the border region between Pakistan and Iraq also remains porous, and there are issues that we witness about the cross-border infiltration between the two countries and illicit trafficking and other challenges as well. So how do you think Pakistan and Iraq can collaborate, and what efforts should be made to address these challenges?
I think that we don't have a common border, so that's why porousness, or what is, we cannot collaborate how to make this border
but
management.
Via Iran, when we talk about
but Iran is itself a big country, from
course.
Shatul Arab till Strait of Hormuz. It has its own border, so we cannot have. Yes, the area which maybe you are referring in this border security, that could be the border management experiences. The good practices which we are opting, and the similar practices maybe the Iraqis like to share. And we can train each other, we can experience each other's, from each other's experiences, and learn from each other's experiences, so that we can improve the border forces in our respective countries. The second important thing is that in the today's world, especially when you are dealing with the non-state actors, and especially if in our region, Iraq is unfortunately a country where there is a weaker writ of the state, and in the peripheral area or in the border area, these organizations have a more acceptability because of the American invasion or these kind of the things. So by virtue of that, if we try to understand that problem, and we assist each other in dealing with that. So terrorism is a key. But on the other side, if we say that we can work, of course we learn from each other's experiences, but we cannot assist in this context.
Of course we cannot assist, but of course there are some common issues between the two countries and challenges that we keep on talking about and referring to. Human trafficking is also one of the challenge. Do you think that enough efforts are being made in that regard? And of course, during the recent meeting as well, there were agreements that were to be signed for the purpose of human trafficking as well. So what steps you think that needs to be done, needs to be taken to address these challenges?
I think the government of Pakistan is very clear that human trafficking shall not take place. And at the same time, Iraq's government is also prepared. But the mafias are bigger than these governments, and there are states within the state. So having said this, that Pakistan is doing best, but if you see that this trafficking coming from Afghanistan, going from Pakistan, and it's going to the Iran and Iraq, so they think that these Afghans are also Pakistani, so we make a distinction in it. This is first point. And second point is, yes, we have to discourage the human trafficking, and we try to search more jobs for our people here and also in Iraq with the connivance of the Iraqi, you can say, government. But if you see that Iraq is a big oil producing country, and if it will be out of the sanction, its oil will be going to multiply or boost its economy, and that economy will be enough for, you can say, investment in the construction of infrastructure or industrial infrastructure, and that will be very attractive for Pakistan if these steps will be taken place in the future.
So, in the light of evolving geopolitical situation in the region, how do you think that in Pakistan's foreign policy, does Iraq fit?
I think that Iraq very rightly fit, not today, since the beginning. Even when there was the Iran-Iraq war, it was fit. Even if we were the major NATO ally of the US, and Iraq was, you can say, invaded by the US under the pretext of Operation and Enduring Freedom. We were in contact. So I think that our bonds are very much strong because of historical, cultural, religion, and political, you can say, understanding. So with these kind of the general connectivity, our bond is very strong, and we are ready. That's why our foreign ministry was there for 3 days visit, and he said that I am ready to do everything for improvement of the bilateral relations. Same was within a simultaneous, it was responded by the Iraqi president and their prime minister and the deputy prime minister, that they are also interested to maintain a cordial and good relations with Pakistan, because it is in the interest of the India, Pakistan and Iraq, because it is in the interest of both states.
Of course. Dr. Hassan, when we talk about enhancing bilateral relations with any country, of course, connectivity remains an important issue. How do you view the current modes of transportation between Pakistan and Iraq, and what do you see the potential for enhancing, and what initiatives should be taken to enhance connectivity?
So in recent, the minister also exchanged a review on a way to expand the commercial cooperation and improve connectivity between the two countries. So there is a huge potential for the development of the bilateral trade between the two countries in the near future. So Iraq is a free market, one, which is very much important part, which offer vast opportunity from the Pakistani investors, from which the local business community could benefit. So it is hoped that the current 100 million bilateral trade would be doubled, which would be record cooperation in the petroleum tourism sector as well as in the air travel facility. In order to improve the economic and trade cooperation, it is necessary to know each other's market and its regard, and most of the exhibition should take place. So about 200 businessmen visited Iraq to participate in the trade exhibition last year. So same, it should be around 200,000 Pakistani visit the Iraq city of Karbala, Najaf, Baghdad every year. So in addition, there is a need to attract Pakistan for the additional tourism in the tourist area of Iraq, which would boost the tourism on the both sides. So Iraq also desire to promote the mutual cooperation with Pakistan in petrochemical, which is very much important area. One is refineries, which is the most potential area. We must have to do that in immediate manner. And then is a petrochemical on other field of energy, and in this regard, the technical support and mutual cooperation can be extended every possible way. So there are numerous investment opportunities for Pakistan companies in construction sector in southern Iran, and then is the Pakistan need to develop new partnership in Middle East across the sectarian divides and assisting Iraq in improving its security defense infrastructure will not only contribute toward the stability but also shore up the Pakistan image in the border.
Of course. But when we talk about Pakistan's economic development, China-Pakistan economic corridor remains a key initiative. So do you think that there is a potential for extending this economic corridor to Iraq as well?
So for now, to understand the situation, Iraq is not in the position to invest in that way, because we have just the land. We also don't have the potential to do that. But what we can do is we can have the joint, refineries over there, which is very much important. And first is the security issue. So first security issue is done when, as our Jannah Sharif was there, and the security, you can exchange is been given. So first point is the security exchange, then is the oil refinery over there, and second is the our business community must go there and put all their money and investment into the energy sector, in the petrochemical and the chemical and the refinery. So we can get the power from there, and then we can arrange all the exercise over there in small and economic zones. The special economic zone is the foreign direct investment. So Iraq is not in that position. So what they have done and what they have decided, what the all the memorandum of understanding, they are allow us our ministerial issues, but the main point is that still they are not is not concentrating. And this is my request to Bilawal Bhutto Zardari to deploy the commercial consulars over there, so they can develop the trade potential and right potential. Meritocratic, technocratic people over there, the bureaucratic people cannot do this meritocratic setup. The petrochemical people, the oil and coal people, the one who work in that process, so there are so many technical people we can send there. So it is not about the bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is just a civil CSP
right.
people.
So this is need of the hour to deploy.
How can they understand the petrochemical? They can't.
Of course. So this is need of the hour to deploy commercial counselors over there. But talking about CPEC as well, do you think there is potential for extending CPEC to Iraq as well? And like Dr. Sen also mentioned about that there are going to be challenges. So how do you view those challenges, and what steps should be taken for smooth implementation of CPEC when we talk about extending this economic corridor?
Well, I think CPEC's extension does depend on geographical proximity. One of the problems for CPEC's extension into West Asia is stability in Afghanistan. I mean, any route that CPEC does take, yes, we do have a border with, Iran. We have the Sistan-Balochistan border, but to extend it through Iran, I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem. But I think CPEC is still it's in its initial stages. I mean, it's still coming up. There's a lot of promise. There's $62 billion. You have special economic zones. You have energy corridors. So I think the spirit of CPEC and BRI can actually be taken forward. I mean, I would love to see a trilateral between Iraq, China, and Pakistan taking place either in Baghdad, Islamabad, or Beijing for that matter, where they actually speak about, enhancing the BRI. But I think extending CPEC into Iraq is a bit of a far-fetched thought.
But
because
BRI, of course.
BRI, definitely, because within the ambit of the BRI, Iraq does want to take part in it, obviously. Iraq is one of the many countries who are decided to be a part of the Belt and Road Initiative because of the very fact that they've also experimented with American aid. It has not necessarily resulted in the kind of stability, economic stability I'm talking about, not political.
So economic investment is
economic investment is needed. So CPEC does need to play its part as far as Pakistan's push for connectivity is concerned, but CPEC is still in its nascent stages. So once it does develop, stability in Afghanistan is materialized, then we can talk about West Asia.
Right, then we can talk about West Asia as well. We are talking about Pakistan's relations with Iraq. We have to take a short we are exploring Pakistan's ties with Iraq. Dr. Sen, when we talk about Pakistan's relations with Iraq, of course, we know that every year more than 200,000 Pakistanis visit Iraq for their religious rights. What do you think needs to be done to further improve the people-to-people contact beyond religious tourism?
See, because you are very much right. It's thousands and 100,000 people go there for the religious issue. But first of all, the security mechanism must be very fine over there, as our general there in Saudi Arabia. So in the same way, Iraq must have to negotiate and must have to request us for the security stability and acquired forces from Pakistan, and then we can hopefully, as the Bilawal Bhutto Zardari says, that we can exchange the bilateral trade, convenience of the Joint Ministerial Commission, rebuilding Iraqi infrastructure and connectivity, and the Iraqi rebuilding the Iraqi infrastructure is only given by and can only given by the Belt and Road Initiative. They can create the infrastructure over there. They can create and they can help them for the oil refineries, and same as that the way they go there. But they have to take a you can say that they have to take a very reverse, robust decision about that. They have to change the direction from the right side to the left side. Mean they must have to fully occupied and have a relationship with the China. So if they can support, then they must have to do. Otherwise, they will have the repercussion same as the
Right.
Sri Lanka faced it. So if the China goes there, then there is a power, then there is an infrastructure, there is a road connectivity, and then everything would be done. So in that case, the Pakistan businessmen and Pakistan business
Right.
acumen, and there are so many bilateral trades can happen in
Of
both
course,
countries.
there is a lot of potential when we talk about bilateral trade, but talking specifically about the religious tourism between the two countries, like you earlier mentioned about the security issues. Dr. Asnad, what measures should be taken to ensure the security and safety of Pakistani pilgrims going to Iraq?
Yes, I already telling you that we must have to take a memorandum of understanding on the security issue. They must have to call up our security over there. I mean, if I speak in open words, they must have to acquire our military and forces over there, because the security situation is not very well in there in the Iraq. So business direction or the business facility or the business people go there, it is not so safe over there. So initially they must have to acquire our forces. It is just not about the NATO forces. They have to acquire our forces, and then they have to have the agreement and the memorandum of understanding between the Iran, Iraq, Saudi
Right.
Arabia, and the China, and then they must have to ask our military people
Right.
over there to give them a security initially. Otherwise, I mean, just
Of
they
course.
depend on the previous way.
Right,
They
Dr. Hasnain.
cannot, I mean, get
Mr. Hamza, when we talk about Dr. Hasnain's suggestions, what do you want to add in it, keeping in mind that Pakistani forces are already, engaged in a number of security challenges that Pakistan is facing right now? What needs to be done to improve people-to-people contact between Pakistan and Iraq?
I think, well, religious tourism is the most important component of
course.
people-to-people contact, and there are many Pakistanis who go there for other forms of
Can
tourism.
we
as
move
well.
it beyond religious tourism?
Absolutely, we can. I think I would love to see joint scholarship programs
Of
actually
course.
take place. I mean, Iraqi students come
Coming
over here.
to
I mean,
Pakistan.
it happens at the National Defense University.
Of
Many
course.
Iraqi soldiers come over here and they receive training. Quaid-e-Azam University, obviously, Dr. Jaspal is heading that, the School of Politics and International Relations Department. It would be great if Quaid-e-Azam University does partner with an Iraqi university, and then you have students coming from both countries and exchanging ideas and, benefiting from courses. What that does is, when you have educational exchanges, there are plenty of takeaways that the
Of
society
course.
can take forward. And educational institutes such as QAU try to promote, you could say, societies which believe in tolerance, peaceful coexistence, harmony. So that is something that can actually be promoted. Beyond that, I think on solely in terms of Iraq is also home to the Tigris and the Euphrates River. I mean, you talk a lot about the Indus River in Pakistan. Lots of Indian and Hindu pilgrims come over here. I think it would be a great idea if Pakistanis actually go and visit the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, because that was where the cradle of the Mesopotamian civilization, which was also there in Iraq.
Of course.
So over here in Pakistan, we can invite them to come over and visit, many of the relics of the Indus Valley civilizations. We talk
Right.
about Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and Taxila for that matter. So there's a lot of
Lot of
potential.
potential.
I mean, Iraq is more or less a tourism hub if you take a look at it, because
course.
obviously you have the religious sites which are holy and sacred for that matter, but you also have other areas that
Of
we can
course.
actually
So
explore.
briefly tell us, how do you see the future prospects of Pakistan's relationship with Iraq, specifically in the backdrop of Foreign Minister's recent visit to Iraq?
I think it's very positive. I think Foreign Minister Bilateral Zardari sent a very amiable message that Pakistan is looking forward to the prospect of building on, cultural ties, economic ties, military ties, and political ties. So I think this relationship will move in a positive trajectory, especially in light of emerging dynamics in the Middle East.
Right. Dr. Jaspal, what you want to add in this, that the future prospects of Pakistan and Iraq, of course, there are a lot of challenges as well, but how do you see the prospects?
I think the prospects are there. When our foreign minister visited there and spent 3 days there, naturally his team has identified certain areas like culture, religion, visa, ministerial cooperation and other things. And secondly, now Pakistan is very much looking that where we can also invest, and Iraq is full of opportunities for investment. And third is that Pakistanis are going a lot either for a religious affairs, I mean that for the sake of worship or pilgrims, and there
Visiting
are kufa,
sites
there are
as well,
certain religious sites. So Pakistan itself is very attractive. So when we send our people, and then definitely Iraqis will also travel to Pakistan. And we have to not forget, Iraq was a rich country. War, of course, devastated its richness. And now again, Iraq has a big potential. And if you see Iraq's neighborhood, it has a Turkey, it has a Saudi Arabia, it has a Kuwait, it has a other Iran. And if we are looking, and if Iran and Iraq mend their fences, definitely if any kind of connectivity, if the Chinese are investing in Iran, definitely they are going to target the Iraq as well, because it's part of their West Asia agenda, and Pakistan will be also going to benefit. So what my final word is that what the Foreign Minister Bilateral Zardari did in Iraq in the last 2-3 days, whatever the initiative he took, the state of Pakistan shall endorse that initiative so that there could be more cooperation and new vistas for Pakistan, economic vistas for Iraq.
Of course, and there is a lot of potential, keeping in mind that regional dynamics are also changing, and there is a future for regional prosperity as well when there is stability in the region. Thank you very much, Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, for joining in today's program. Thank you very much, Mr. Hamza Rafat, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Dr. Hussain Javed, for being with us in today's program. Of course, in today's program, we explored the multidimensional relationship between Pakistan and Iraq, and post US invasion of Iraq in 2003, now the relations are moving to new heights. Of course, there is a lot of potential when we talk about the economic cooperation between the two countries. There are challenges as well, but as we conclude today's program, we see that there is a bright future when we talk about Pakistan's relations with Iraq. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care.